Oh man.
Hey, Old Man on the Mat crew. This is Tony Jones coming with you another great episode of Old Man on the Mat. Guys, what am I going to say? I'm going to say I'm very excited. Life is good. And, I got some kickback on some of those. They say, man, why do you always say everything is good? You know what? There's no dirt in my face today. So I think we're doing okay, right? But guys,
Totally.
I'm fired up. It's going to be a good episode today. Once again, as I always say, guys, thanks for all the likes and follows and all the support on all the different platforms. YouTube channel starting to blow up in my mind. More
Yeah.
than 2 subscriptions. That's great for me. But guys, I am so excited. As you know, we do a whole thing about fitness here, martial arts, everything we could do. But this young lady we have on today, I think it runs right into that same genre. I don't know the words, but it's really good, and she has a great podcast out there. This young lady, she's a Catholic content creator. She's a writer. She's a podcaster. Just said that. And one thing I think is really cool when I saw her and we talked a little bit, her whole thing is about sexuality and faith. And I think today we need a lot of that, guys. So with that, I'm going to give you Miss Freeman Voyles. Did I say it right?
Yeah. Yeah, you did. Yeah, that was perfect.
I usually mess up words and everybody's names. I'm so bad with it.
No, that was perfect. Thank you for that intro. It's really, really cool to be here. I was absolutely fascinated to get your message because most of my followers, so I designed my space for young women, but most of my followers are like middle-aged men. So
Awesome.
this is perfect, even though I'm not sure like what I'm doing to attract that audience, but I think this is a great demographic to be talking
Yeah.
to about this.
It is, because the same way I found yours, because I always look at people that I think that my audience can pull something from. And looking at what you were saying, reading, I was like, this is really cool. And I thought it was more fitness because just at your age, I love to see, I wish I would have done more things younger. And most of us old guys say that. And so I'm watching that. And when you talk more, you said what you're talking about, sexuality and faith. I was like, that is the best thing. And I believe everything happens for a reason too. So it's a
For
reason
sure.
I link with you. So let's jump into this. Let's start first. Tell me your story. I know you're only 23. She's a baby. But you have a big platform. You have a big story. So let's start with, when did you get, I don't know if you guys use
Yeah.
the phrase saved, as I say as a
Yeah.
Christian. When did you get saved?
Well, I believe that we're constantly being saved every day.
Yeah,
So
okay.
but if you're more asking like when did I like start getting into the faith, that
Yeah.
was more like 16. I was
Okay.
a little bit later in life. I was definitely not a cradle Christian at all. And that gave me a really cool perspective though, because I grew up understanding like why people don't trust Christianity, why people don't trust conservatives, this sort of thing. And so that gave me a good perspective for when I started becoming a little bit more empathetic with Christianity. I was able to understand both sides in a way that I don't think, a cradle Christian or a cradle Catholic would have gotten that. You know what I mean?
Makes
So
sense.
that was 16. And I've been able to use what I learned from both before that, kind of transformation,
Yeah.
conversion, and after to
Okay.
cultivate this space.
Okay. Nice. Nice. Now, you said you weren't cradled, a cradle Christian or anything.
Yeah.
But was it a certain instant that said, you know what, I have to change? Or something that happened, or a scripture you read, or
So honestly, the repetition of going to church every weekend when I was in high school was really good for me. I
Okay.
felt definitely like I was being, that's a transformational age, and I felt very much like there are two paths in front of me.
Mhm.
And it was the process of like going to church every day or every weekend alone, sitting
Yeah.
in the back, and then I would sit a little closer to the front and a little closer to the front. And then I got involved with the youth group and I got involved with activism. And before I knew it, nature ran its course, and
Yeah.
I converted. I got confirmed into the Catholic Church at 17. I believe
Okay.
it was like 16 or 17, because I started the process at 16, but it took a little while. And I haven't looked back. Really haven't. It's just been the biggest blessing.
Okay, that's really cool. But at your age, and I think we mentioned a little bit earlier when we were talking beforehand. This day and age, I know. I'm not going to make this a left and right thing, okay?
Yeah.
But the left is so loud that it makes
Yeah.
you think their numbers are huge.
Yeah.
But I start looking at the youth today, and I start questioning can they be saved? Can we?
Hmm.
Are they? I don't want to say any good, but you know what I mean. Are they more
Yeah.
Christian based or whatever? You know, what's your thoughts on that? Or where everybody is today on the youth? What do you see out there in the youth today?
I see both. So most of the hate that I get, and we'll probably get a little more into this,
Mhm.
is from the right,
Okay.
which is funny because I feel like, I mean, I consider myself conservative.
Yeah.
But I would say that most of my hate does come from people on the right.
Okay.
And I think that's becoming louder, and I think that it's a pendulum. So
Okay.
when people are angry that, conservatives, Christians, people on the right are getting loud, I agree with that, but I also think it's in response to something. Every
Of course. Yeah.
action has an equal and opposite reaction.
Exactly.
So it's a reaction to something um that's been happening societally. So
Yeah.
it's not one group is to blame over the other. It's like we're each getting louder and screaming on
Yeah.
top of one another. And that's part of the reason that MySpace uses a lot of like neutral tones. I
Okay.
rarely even like capitalize stuff, which drives your generation
Crazy.
crazy.
It does.
Crazy.
We
But
scream
it's
at LOL. We put it in caps and exclamation
no,
points.
no, but it's intentionally like a quiet space.
Okay, that's good. That's good. That's really good. Well, let's jump on that question though. Why do you think the conservative right they get mad at you? What are they upset about?
Well, and this is really the meat and potatoes of the conversation.
Mhm.
It is my conversations around sexuality.
Okay.
It's people are upset that I don't wear a bra. They think I'm inviting lust. They're upset
Oh
that I
my
don't
gosh.
they don't they're upset that, they see me drink. I'm having a drink in Uptown Charlotte,
Yeah.
or I have good conversations about God's plan for sex, and that gets detailed and graphic. And
Okay.
people believe that that's not modest. That's a big one. People, obviously have a lot of criticism about the Catholic faith. I have a lot of Protestant followers, which is so good.
Yeah.
I have, yeah, and also atheists and people that are a little bit more agnostic, but
Yeah.
they don't tend to be as aggressive with me. It's mostly like we get mad at our own tribe because it's
Okay.
supposed to be our own tribe.
Okay.
You know what
Okay.
I mean? And it's
Yeah.
more personal.
That's kind of strange that you say that, but I'm not saying you're wrong by any
Mhm.
stretch because you're
Mhm.
you're from the south, from the southern area, pretty much from Charlotte and things like that. So I don't know if
Well, my conversion was in Seattle.
okay, Seattle,
Yeah,
gotcha, gotcha.
yeah.
Because I look at and what I see now, especially in today, drinking is not as much frowned upon in the Christian faith. Because
Mhm.
I be honest with you, I get it from the left because I
Mhm.
drink whiskey a lot.
Yeah, you
I
do.
shoot guns. I smoke
For sure.
cigars.
For
And
sure.
so my I won't say liberal, but I'll say left friends that I have, and I have friends on every spectrum, and they're like, "Well, you're being a hypocrite. You shouldn't do that." And my first thing to them is say, "Do you know the Bible?" And
Right.
most people they assume that Christians supposed to be, perfect, walking this perfect
Right.
line. We're supposed to be Jesus in this form, but we're not perfect. And I think a lot of people don't realize, even like you said, the ones on the right that's criticizing you are looking, I won't say criticizing, but coming after you, they don't understand the Bible, in my opinion.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, and it's unfortunate because being a young woman
Hmm.
and having mostly older male followers, I
Yeah.
feel like there's also this like, she's still learning, she's still finding herself,
Yeah,
she'll get
well,
there,
yeah.
and that's another power dynamic that
Yeah.
drives me crazy.
Yeah. But I think what it could be, and I'm only speaking up for because I've been where you're trying to get. I love saying that to
Yeah.
my daughters. They get so mad because my daughter's about your age. No, daughter's older than you. And I
Uh-huh.
love saying that because we have experienced some things. We have changed. We're all
Yeah.
going to change. You're not going to be the same way. And trust me, I hope we get, like I said, I'm 29. Be quiet. Don't say a word. Hopefully by the time I get older, I'm a little different. So I think that's
Yeah.
why what some of the older people are telling you, you're going to change. But
Yeah.
it's a way to do it, though. It really is a way to say it instead of being
Yeah.
condescending or
Right.
anything like that.
Without like invalidating. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, how did you get into this big platform on sexuality? So I don't want to jump right into say how do you feel about sexuality and what
Hmm.
the going against or for what the word says about it.
Yeah.
So how'd you get to that to where you're talking about sexuality a lot?
Well, honestly, I talk about a lot of things. That's just the one that sticks.
Okay, of course we're humans. Everyone, let's
Yeah.
talk about it.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm okay with that because it's
Yeah,
like I'm trying to be open to God's plan and like
yeah,
be flexible and dynamic. But I talk about, fashion, relationships, society, politics, foreign policy. I talk about a lot.
Okay. I
Um,
love it. I love
faith,
it.
but sexuality, like I said, is the thing that sticks and the
Yeah.
thing that people really have questions about and
Yeah.
really need healing from.
Mm,
So
mm.
that's what I'm doing, trying to.
Okay. Now, what is it? Describe sexuality and faith. Your take on it. If you can put it in one sentence, what
An
you think.
elevator pitch, yeah.
There you go. There you go. I like that.
Yeah. Well, I think that sexuality is something that God gave us. And I
Hmm.
think sexuality is the desire to be in union with everyone, really.
Okay.
So it shouldn't be something that we talk about in regards to it just happening in the bedroom.
Okay.
Sexuality is something that allows us to enter into communion with everyone and everything because sexuality is a desire to be united.
Okay.
And that's fundamentally holy and it's from God and it's good and it's not meant to be distorted.
Okay. So wait, let's jump on that. That's wait, you're just full of wealth of knowledge. I like this.
Oh,
So what? How can you distort sexuality?
I mean, I think that list is longer than the ways that we can like embrace it and be good. But gosh, I mean, we've got porn, obviously, that 80% of men watch it.
Yeah.
We've got OnlyFans that's getting a lot bigger. We've got, the music we listen
Yeah.
to. We've
Yeah.
got we've got
Yeah.
young kids are sending I'm saying young kids, but like we're sending, nudes to each other.
Yeah.
We're having hookups.
Yeah.
We're into all this like crazy, like really, really, really distorted things.
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna like begin to tell you the top searches on Pornhub. It's just like really, really sad and scary, honestly. We've got trafficking, rape, abortion, birth
Yeah.
control. All of this is a distortion. You get in trouble for breastfeeding in public,
Yeah.
but it's
Makes
better
no
for that
sense.
same woman to be on a centerfold. That's
Yeah.
more acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a myriad of ways.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. We are hypocritical as humans. We all
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
Like you just on that, you look at a woman breastfeeding, oh my God. But you see a woman just topless walking around, you're like, yeah, look at that.
Right.
And I think we've fallen so far from where we're supposed to be. But I think it's with the internet, we everything is right in your face, because when I was your age, we only had magazines.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so you see everything on the internet so big now. So how do you feel about the homosexual sexuality
Mhm. Yeah,
side?
and
Or
I was gonna touch on that
yeah.
too. Like, I think it all stems from like confusion,
Hmm.
and it's all like sin is a lack of God.
Yeah.
Sin means without.
Right.
So it's not necessarily like you're trying to be evil or you're trying to be bad or you're trying to disobey. It's like you have such good intentions and you have so much love to give. It's just not being channeled in the best way and in
Okay.
the way that was meant for you. And that's not to say that the Catholic Church teaches that even like, having homosexual thoughts, having homosexual inclinations, that's not bad. We all have I'm looking at my bar cart right now thinking about how nice it would be to like have that bottle of
There you
wine.
go. Exactly.
We have we
Yeah.
have certain things. Everybody has their thing,
Yeah.
but like everything, we have to be mindful about what we do with that, right?
Right. Right. Get more self control.
Exactly.
I was just talking to a
Yeah.
friend of mine about, sex, and we are talking about that. And I was telling her, just my phone is, like you just said, we all have these urges. Everybody
Yeah.
has an urge.
Yeah.
What do we do with that urge? Do we act on it? Or, we look at, I wish I had $1 million, but there's a bag of million sitting at the bank. Do we rob the bank? No, we don't do
Right.
that. Same with sexuality. Now, have you had a chance to study other faiths, when it came to sexuality?
I haven't really, other than better understanding. We've got people that are Hindu coming in. We've got
Hmm.
Muslims coming in. I remember I was at a coffee shop recently, and like the Muslim guy refused to like shake my hand or like hug me, and he's like really nice,
Yeah.
and that was interesting, and I learned more about that. But I can't say I've like cracked open a book about like I have read a lot of stuff from Gandhi,
Okay.
but I haven't had like I haven't read the Quran, for example.
Okay. Gotcha. I haven't read it either. And,
Yeah.
I watch a lot of things. I'm a guy that I love to absorb knowledge, but
Good.
I used to be a big time reader, but I've gotten lazier. So I'll just pull up a video somewhere and
Right.
try to read it,
That's so good though.
Yeah.
That's so good that you do that.
Yeah, it helps. Like you said, we're all changing, right? Even at your age and even at my age, we're all going to be changing.
Totally.
Now, are you dating anyone right now?
Yes, I've been
Okay.
married for 3 years,
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
but I'm dating him too. We date
I
all the
like
time. We date
that.
every week. Yeah, we're dating for sure.
I like that. That's pretty cool. The reason I was going to ask that was, how did you handle
Yeah,
sexuality with your boyfriend, and if they want to do more things and that you not want to,
right.
how did you meet him in church at all?
I did not know. We met
Okay,
in high school.
okay. So how did you approach that before you guys were married? With the Bible.
Well, so I mean, with every relationship, I think there's moments of weakness and there's moments of strength.
Hmm.
And it's a matter of definitely communication. It's not a matter of I don't want to do it. I think the words you said were like, well, what if you wanted to do it? Or what if he wanted to do it and you didn't? And
Right.
it's like, well, we both want to. And that's a fundamental, like, we need to stop right there. It's
Yeah.
not a matter of like self control, even. It's
Hmm.
just a matter of like reorienting your desire.
Okay.
It's not withholding, it's redirecting. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
It
I
does.
don't know
It
if that makes
does.
sense.
No, it does make sense. But what do you direct it to? It being a young couple trying to date and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, you redirect it towards other forms of connection, other forms of understanding one another, ways to yoke each other's burdens, ways to have intimate conversations, have good time alone together,
Yeah.
and cultivate intimacy in ways that, you know, are are holy.
Okay. But but it has to be so hard.
It
You
is. It
know,
is.
being men and women are totally different. Men are visual. We are let's go for whatever it is,
Yeah.
and women are more emotional and all kinds of things. So how do you
Yeah.
marry those two? How that's got to be tough being a Christian and trying to date. Or
Oh
what do you
gosh.
think?
Well, I'm so lucky that I'm not a Christian and trying to date because I've heard crazy stories. I mean,
Yeah.
it feels like men and women are growing like totally separate.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's both have to like understand one another. Women, I think, have to be a little bit more spontaneous, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
We learned in my marriage prep that like a woman shouldn't be thinking about the dishes, right? When her husband's trying to like connect with her.
Yeah.
Don't like drop the dishes, girl.
Yeah.
Like go do what's important, you
Yeah.
know?
Exactly.
And so I think a lot of the conversation is about how men need to control themselves and how men need to, stop being like creeps or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think that's maybe true, but also women need to learn to be more spontaneous. We need to
Yeah.
learn that our urges are not bad. They don't make us, animals or,
Right.
anything like that. Like
Yeah.
we are ultimately the same. We're more similar than you would think.
Oh yeah. God put from a woman from a man's rib. We brought all those. But I
Hmm.
look at it, I think you hit it on the head. We have to change a little bit because I see men being told, like you said, not be creeps, all this other stuff, not to be so chivalrous. And I've heard that before. Don't open my
Mm.
door. And I've done that for ladies
Oh,
who I'm
yeah.
out and about, open the door, whatever. And they've said that to me. I'm just like, okay, this is what we
Oh,
do.
wow. Wow.
And so how do we change those things? Or how do we change? Because I think women nowadays are looking at men as they don't really need a man anymore.
Oh, yeah. I think the emasculation of men
Mhm.
is devastating and
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking. Like, the number one thing a man needs to feel like he's worthwhile is like responsibility.
Yeah.
And if we take away those responsibilities, if we like tell men that they're natural, like their gifts of
Yeah.
providing and protecting, like those are the big
Yeah.
ones.
Yeah.
If we tell them that that's not needed or bad, what is he supposed to think? I mean, no
Yeah.
wonder 80% of men watch porn
Yeah.
because the women tell them, the women in their lives don't respect their masculinity, aren't going to try to like understand them and connect with them, and are going to tell them that their masculinity is toxic
Yeah.
or bad.
Yeah, yeah, and you hear that. What's it? Toxic. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. There is not. It's just there's masculine, and then there's just bad people and good people.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. The masculinity has nothing to do with it. And
Right.
I think as society has changed so much, and women have so much power, which I think they should. No one's saying they shouldn't.
Yeah.
But I think they've taken on the masculine role, or been
Mm.
told that they can do anything a man can do, and it's all these other things.
Mm.
And I don't believe that. That may be being chauvinistic or whatever, but I don't think a woman can do everything a man can do, and a man can't do everything a woman can do. We
And
have to know our
again, like
roles.
going back to that pendulum idea that we were talking about, I wonder if it's part of that pendulum. Like we have societally, generationally felt less than. So now
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
overcompensating, and it's just going to go back, and men are going to get more aggressive, and men are going to go to Romania where the rape laws are more loose. And it's like we're just going to keep doing this like back and forth until someone or something happens that forces us to
Yeah.
really come together, you know?
Yeah. And I just think once everyone takes their eyes off themselves and we start, like, because men, like
Yeah.
we said earlier, men don't have that space, other than
Yeah.
martial arts, fitness, shooting. There's other things that men do. Because I know
Yeah.
with my friends, when we get together, guys are still guys. Even at our age, we're still stupid guys. We still laugh at the dumbest things. We
Yeah.
still treat each other like crap. But we love each other. That's what guys do. Have you ever sat in a room and watched two guys who are good friends just go at it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
And you
And
sit
just
back.
say like them. I'm like, I've never heard you speak like this.
But that's what guys do. We talk to each
Yeah.
other like we're just pieces of crap, but we love each other. We really
Yeah.
do, because guys don't. We can't sit in the room. And I joked with my friend about it. So how can girls hold hands together? And me and my buddy, Tank can't hold hands walking down the street. Not that I want to, but
Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah.
without looking
Yeah.
gay or whatever it is.
Totally.
Now, doing your research or your study about the sexuality, and we're going to jump back on, what are some of the misconceptions about, faith or Christianity or spirituality and sexuality?
I think the biggest misconception people make about sexuality within faith is that sexuality is something to be suppressed
Mm,
or to be rejected or to be ashamed of.
okay.
We hear all of these stories about girls being told that if they lose their virginity, nobody's going to want them,
Yeah.
they're not
Yeah.
desirable anymore.
Yeah.
We've got women that have been attacked and raped in the church and have been told, to either shut up or it never happened or it was her fault.
That's
I
true.
mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
That's true.
that's one of like that the total misunderstanding of sexuality in regards to faith
Hmm.
is no wonder that a secular world is taking over the word entirely.
Yeah. Yeah. And they really are. And I see some of these pastors, I call them, pastors,
Yeah.
and they got the rainbow thing on and all that
Yeah.
stuff, and they're
Yeah.
preaching that homosexuality is right, and
Right.
God was gay, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that's
Yeah.
being way off the mark. Now, do
Yeah.
you see any of that happening out there, and what's your feelings towards that?
I do. I definitely do. And again, it's misguided. Like I feel sad that there are people living in confusion and
Hmm.
probably wanting more and probably grasping for more, but nobody's coming to them on their level and saying like you are worthy. First of all, no matter who you have sex with, no matter who you're interested in, it doesn't change like who you are
Yeah.
as a person. It doesn't change your dignity. It doesn't change my love of
Yep.
you.
Yeah.
It's just it's just misguided. And I think there are people that are realizing like I'm I'm being lied to here.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's anything, I don't know if it's malice. I don't think it's anything um like meant for evil, it's not intentionally evil, I don't think.
Hmm.
But it is, I mean, misguiding people, like telling, women that like, rah rah rah, pro-choice, like your body, your
Yeah.
choice. It's
Yeah.
like we have to look at like scripture. Scripture isn't meant to suppress us or to
Right.
hold us back. And you changing, your flag outside doesn't change scripture at
Right.
all.
None of that changes scripture. None of that
It
does.
doesn't. And like you're misleading your people and you're
Yeah.
harming people,
Yeah. Yeah. And we see that because it's a church that was close to where I live. They have the rainbow flag out, and they say we're supporting that. And I talked to the pastor. I walked in, and I was just like, "Hey, I'm not trying to be confrontational, but it's
Did
just."
you really?
I really did.
Oh my gosh.
But that's my
Did you
personality.
really?
I'm always
Did
in
you
somebody's
really?
face. I actually did. And I said, I'm trying, I don't want to be confrontational, but just can you explain to me why you
Huh.
have this flag out here? You have it, and actually, you have it above the American flag.
Oh
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
Oh.
And he at first I think he was ready for a fight.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I smiled, because I'm
Yeah,
like,
right.
I'm not here
Yeah.
to fight with you. I'm a Christian brother. And so he talked to me. We didn't have a long conversation, but in a nutshell, he says he put it there to let the homosexuals know that they're welcome.
Mm.
And I said, well, in my opinion, there's different ways to handle that without putting the
Mm.
flag and all that stuff, because we're all sinners. So you don't
Mm,
put a flag up for the rapist. You don't put a flag up for the murderer. You don't put flag up for the, all these other things that are also sin.
mm.
And his answer was kind of, I don't know, it was just kind of
Yeah.
weird as we talked
Yeah.
a little bit more. We didn't talk a long time because I had to break the conversation off because he was getting a little heated and he wanted more of a confrontation. And my mindset thinking, I could snap your neck, old man. No, I'm just joking.
Uh-oh.
But I'm just, no, it wasn't like that. But he was just more making excuses and,
Yeah.
all these things and saying things that I didn't think was right on the Bible, but that was just me.
Yeah.
Now, when you see things like that, what's your feelings towards that? When you see, I'm sure, I don't know if you've seen that out there with the
For
flag
sure.
churches and things like that. And have you talked to any of them?
I have, yeah. And I totally hear what you're saying about like people maybe not understanding the Bible the way that you and I do.
Right.
I think that there really is a school of thought that like this whole like, no homosexual acts, I think people really think that was added much later and it's
Yeah.
not valid and
Yeah.
it's something to be just cut out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about like marriage is supposed to be free, total, faithful, and fruitful.
Right.
That's what we believe.
Right.
Free, total, faithful, and fruitful. It doesn't have to be physically fruitful. Obviously, if you're suffering from infertility, that
Yeah.
doesn't you can still be fruitful in other ways, but
Yeah.
how can when I think about the butthole, I'm not gonna lie, that's not what it's made
It
for.
is
It's
not.
just not.
It
When I
is
think
not.
about reproduction and sex and intimacy, it is a coming together in like the reproductive organs. I
Yeah.
mean, just think about that critically. That's impossible
Yeah.
for two men to do, and it's impossible for two women to do.
Oh, absolutely. But they've been we're told that it can happen. It's normal. I think what they did was they changed the language. You change the
Yeah.
language and make people okay with these things. And I love how you said, "Do you think about the butthole?" But it's the truth. That's nothing. There's no reproduction in that at all.
Yeah.
Heterosexual way or homosexual way. There's no reproduction in
Yeah.
there.
Right. And it's not fruitful, whether it be physically or spiritually.
Yeah, there's nothing there, But I think you said earlier about we're confused. There's a lot of confusion, and I think
Yeah.
that's Satan's biggest weapon, in my opinion. Set
Mm.
confusion, and we will run with it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's so good.
So when you first met your husband and he found out that you were a Christian, how did your relationship go? Was he the kind of guy that says, "Oh, I don't care," he was just trying to get with you, let's date, or was he? Did you have a talk with him, sit him down, and say, "Hey, this is what we're gonna do"?
Okay, so you're gonna love this story. So the way that me and my husband started talking, we had sat next to each other all year in class.
Okay.
We started talking when I started to convert to Christianity, and I put out an op-ed in my school paper about how abortion ends a human life.
Yeah.
And that was super controversial in my, Seattle public
Oh
schools.
yeah,
I did
Seattle,
not
yeah.
know what I was getting into. I didn't know that would be controversial. I mean, we're accepting people. We accept science, reason, acceptance, right?
Right.
Like womanhood, empowerment. Like I did not know how bad that was going to be. And it was this guy that sat next to me, cute guy,
Of course.
that was like, he was like, I've got your back. I would love to help you, write this op-ed.
Wow.
I would love to defend you in any way you need it. And by the way, can I get your number?
I love
So
that.
that was it. That was it. That was it. I'm not kidding you. It was like the minute my conversion happened, the rest of my life was written in stone.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, sometimes I forget that and then I talk about it and I'm like, "Oh my gosh. God is he's so not subtle, sometimes. I'm like, that was not subtle.
that's right. That's what I love when people say that God works in mysterious ways, and I'm always saying He does not. It's
I
bold
know.
as in your face if you pay attention.
Yeah, exactly. If you use some like hindsight, Yeah.
That's awesome. So when you
Yeah.
got your number, and when did you guys talk about what's not going to happen?
Yeah. Well, again,
I'm getting nosy now. You know that.
No. I can tell you that, it was not easy.
Yeah.
I can tell you that stumbling happened. I can tell you
Of course.
it was not perfect. And I want to make that 100% clear.
Yeah.
I am not perfect. I was still in the process of my conversion. And I think conversion happens every day.
Oh yeah.
So
I like that. I like that.
So I was not perfect. He was not perfect.
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it at that, and that's okay. And it took, it just took confession, repentance,
Yeah.
apology to one another, that like I didn't respect you enough to
Yeah.
wait for you. You didn't respect me enough to wait for
Yeah.
me. And let's try again. And every marriage is going to have that, like, he's falling, I'm falling,
Oh
but
yeah.
we get up and we do it together. Now, if it was something that we couldn't stop doing and we couldn't, get out of it, and it was too hot and heavy,
Right.
we would have to break up, or we would have to separate, take some time to like regroup our priorities. But I always knew that he was going to bring me closer to God, and I was going to bring him closer to God, even if we had moments of weakness.
Okay. But like you
And
said, no one's perfect.
no one's perfect.
No one's
And there
perfect.
are, is like 2% of marriages that actually do wait totally until marriage.
Yeah.
That's amazing. They're going to die together.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's
you
good.
know,
Yeah.
but like the rest of us, we can, we can have faith that God is in control.
Yeah, yeah, God is in control. And I like to tell people that God gave us these urges and these feelings and these emotions. We just have to learn how to deal with them.
Yeah.
Now, how would you? I'm trying to look at some of the questions I had for you, but I don't want to stick to these. But I have so many other things I
Right,
want to jump
right.
out with you. But I'll make sure I get some of these in for you. Now, how can someone reconcile their sexual identity, with their faith? Let's say, if someone's thinking, I may be gay or I may be
Mm.
lesbian, but I'm still a Christian. I want God in my life.
I would say it's so good that you still want a relationship with God. I would have to tell that person, like, I'm sorry for the ways that, we have probably failed you, probably
Yeah,
told you that you are irredeemable, or
yeah,
you can't ever come to our churches again, or you're bad and evil.
yeah.
I would encourage them to definitely take time for themselves.
Yeah.
Don't worry about dating. Don't
Okay.
worry about who you're going to end up with. Don't
Yeah.
worry about your desires.
Yeah.
Just be,
Okay.
and get to know God. Try different churches. Get some good friends. Get a community. I'll be your friend. I'm friends with all my followers.
That's
I
awesome.
want to be your friend. I'll be your friend.
That's
And
cool.
just learn who you are.
Okay.
Learn why you were created. Get to know who created you. Get to know who has saved us.
Okay.
Get to know who died for you, why, who rose for you, why.
Yeah.
Get to know that. Because once we can put our identity in Christ, like, the rest comes naturally. So there's no
Okay.
question of, am I gay? Am I straight? Do I want to do this job or this job? It just naturally, it just comes. When you have
Yeah.
the Holy Spirit in you, it just naturally flows. And
Yeah.
I'm not an expert, so I don't know if that
You're not? Let me
makes
take this off my
sense.
paper here because I said she's an expert. No, I'm just joking with you.
No, no, I'm not. I'm not. And I'll tell you, I have a lot. I mean, I have some, definitely some gay people, some trans people,
Yeah.
bisexual, up the wazoo. And
Yeah.
I have no plans to, yell at them or
Oh,
be
you can't get anything
unkind.
solved that way.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
I would just encourage them to keep getting to know their creator.
Yeah.
Aren't
Yeah.
we all?
That's awesome. That's awesome you think like that. Because I remember this was when I lived in Iowa. Yes, I lived in some crazy places. Iowa's crazy. And
That
I
is.
was working out this gym, and that's when I was in better shape. I was lifting weights, and this lady walks over to me, and she says, "This is a good example. I'll tell you a story." She comes over to me, and she says, "Excuse me," and I'm mid rep whatever I was doing, and I said, "I'm sorry, just one second. Let me finish this rep, then I'll come spot you," because I'm thinking she wanted me to help her
Uh-oh.
spot her. So we're lifting and everything else, and she's like, and after I finished, I said, "Yeah, where are you working out? Where can I help you?" And she said, "No, I have a question for you." I said, "Yeah, what's your question?" She says, "Are you a Christian?" I said, "Yeah, absolutely I am." And she says, "I knew it. The way you carried yourself. I've seen you around this gym, and I've seen the way you carry yourself. You're a Christian."
Oh my gosh.
That blew me away. I was just floored. I was just like,
Oh my
wow. Yeah,
gosh.
and I felt so good. I prayed so hard that night or that day, and I told her, "Thank you so much. That's one of the biggest compliments you can give me." But what I'm thinking of and what I was saying, what I realized then is I may not know the Bible the best.
Right.
I may not know all these things. And I think that if we just live by example, I think we'll draw more people to Christ. I really believe that.
I
If
completely agree.
if we don't try to act like we're perfect.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
completely agree.
and like you were saying earlier, you were just talking earlier, and people, all kinds of things, they run from God, all these things. I think it's because of shame.
Yeah.
Now what's your thoughts on how people can get past that when there's, excuse me, because I think that's the biggest thing to keep us all from repenting and everything. We do some stupid things out there, gay, whatever it is. We don't think God's going to love us anymore, so we have shame,
Yeah.
like Adam and Eve did when they
Right.
listened to the serpent. They just what? They went and hid themselves. You know. So what's your feelings towards that? Do you find there's more shame out there?
Um, I have definitely struggled with shame, especially sexual shame,
Hmm.
especially considering I came to the church, mid late high school, and even then was not
Yeah.
like,
The innocent girl in
still kind of
you.
like, in two worlds.
Yeah.
Um, anyways, for me, and this isn't gonna probably work for everyone, and it sounds crazy, but I love the sacrament of confession. I
Okay.
love being able to go and tell somebody everything.
Yeah.
Everything. I have been told like, girl, this confession like has blown my mind. Like
Okay.
I didn't expect all this. That was very honest.
Yeah.
I've gotten all of it. And the process of going and like confessing your sins to somebody who is going to keep it confidential
Yeah.
and who knows your heart, knows you were repentant, and is ready to help you understand how forgiven you are.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how are we so lucky? I mean,
Yeah. We
we have
are lucky.
gotten so lucky to have a God that administers forgiveness at the blink of an eye. Now, you have to want it. You have
Yeah.
to understand your need for it
Yeah. Yeah.
somewhat. I mean, not we can't all possibly comprehend how in need of mercy we are. It's
Right.
probably for the best that we don't
Right.
totally know.
Right.
But yeah, just dwelling on like
Yeah.
how unconditional forgiveness this is because we as mere mortals we live in a world of like conditional forgiveness.
Yeah.
It's like fool me
Yeah.
once, shame on you, fool me twice, like shame on me, like we're over,
I'll never talk to
done,
you
like get out
again.
of my
Yep. Yep.
life.
Yep.
And like just reworking that mentality and realizing our need and realizing how good his mercy is and how unending it is,
Yeah.
but also towing the line of like not assuming it in a way that's like we're taking advantage of it,
Oh yeah.
but in a way that's just yeah,
Yeah.
sitting in that truth, being ready to accept it and being ready to move on.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Yeah. Sitting in that truth. And I was just watching actually night before last I watched the Passion of Christ.
Good,
I try to
good.
watch it every year,
Yeah.
but it's certain scenes I can't watch and it breaks me down every time because it shows. I mean, it was a great done movie. It was a well. I don't know if you've seen that movie, correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It was a very well done movie. It was a great
Mhm.
movie, and to see how much love and compassion and forgiveness that God had for us, that God
Yeah,
has for us, and watch that movie, and it breaks me down every time, and it makes me feel good that my God still loves me that much.
I
You know,
know.
even though I'm a moron in most of the things I do. I always say,
Same.
yeah,
Same.
exactly. 'Cause I started to be a minister years ago, and I always say, people always say, why don't I'm an ordained minister, the whole thing, I'm still there. And they're like, why don't you have your own church? I said, listen, God said to me, he said, Tony, listen, I love you. But I know what you've done in your past, so I tell you what, I forgive you for it. How about this? I'll let you in heaven, but you can't lead anybody. Is it a deal? I said it's a deal, God. We're good.
Well, you're totally leading. I mean, think about all
No.
the people that are listening to this. Like, oh my gosh.
Oh
Oh my
man, but
gosh.
that's why I don't get on the pulpit. I don't get up there. I was at a friend's house at a wedding thing, and the other day, last weekend in Ohio, and the guy I met their pastor, and he was like, "Man, you should come preach at my church." I'm like, "Nope, I shouldn't do that."
You're kidding.
Yeah, I'm like, "Nah, I don't think I'll do that. No, I don't think God's ready for that yet. Nobody's ready for God to do that."
Wow, that's fascinating. I totally get that vibe from you that you would be like ready. You'd be
Oh,
like, all
thank
right,
you.
where's the mic?
Yeah.
Where's the mic?
Oh, I can talk about a lot of things. I told him I may run people out of your church because I do it. Hellfire and damnation, damn it. No,
Oh my gosh. Oh my
but
gosh.
what would you suggest with someone? How would you talk to someone to get them from that shame? Or how would you nudge anyone? Or have you nudged anyone from saying, God loves me, but he wouldn't accept me because what I've done, you know?
So yeah, I've gotten that message probably 50
Oh,
times
wow,
in those
okay.
words,
That's
like
good.
unsolicited random person. And first of all, like I just asked them like what did you do?
Yeah.
You know, because I think everything is going to come to light.
Yeah.
It's
Always
just
does.
It's just a matter
Mm-hmm.
of how.
Yeah.
Is it
Yeah.
going to be on your own accord
Mhm.
in an act of humility?
Yeah.
Or is it going to be a really humiliating, devastating, life-altering event?
Yep.
Not to freak you out, but everything that happens in the dark comes to light.
Yep.
So
And it's not
you
always
have the
opportune time.
opportunity
Yep.
before it comes to light in a really bad way to bring it to light right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So I encourage people to bring it to the light, whether that's talking to a friend, somebody that you trust, a nice young lady on Instagram. I don't know if I'd recommend it, but it's better than nothing.
Right.
And a lot of people truly have nothing.
Yeah.
Have no one.
Yeah.
Bring it to the light. Ask yourself why? Why do you feel shame? Because is it like, oh, I should be perfect?
Yeah.
That's ego. That's ego.
That is.
Or is it shame because my God deserves so much better. My friend deserves so much better. My employer deserves so much better. Why where's the shame coming from?
Yeah.
Is it shame that why I feel like I should feel ashamed?
Yeah.
But you doesn't sound like you do, right?
Right.
So really understanding that shame.
Mm-hmm.
And then no matter like whatever that root is, finding a way to bring it to God, to bring it to the person maybe you hurt, or the person you're hurting, right? Or the thing that you're doing wrong, or the thing that maybe you're not doing wrong. And maybe it's everyone else that's telling you you should be ashamed. I mean, people tell me all the time I should be ashamed
Really?
for sitting here talking. Yes.
Why?
I mean, again, like the conversations around sexuality.
Yeah.
Being somebody that's I'm not a professional, but I talk a lot about things that have happened to me, and for some reason I'm not qualified to talk about them
Makes
because I'm
no
not a professional.
sense.
The myriad of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I would start.
Yeah. And that's a good place to start. But they have to understand who they are.
Yeah.
But I think that shame keeps people from coming forward. We all, I've
right. It does.
I don't want to let anybody know my secret, kind of thing. So we don't tell anybody. So we just eat that by ourselves, and we get shame, and so we keep walking further and further away from God. Now I noticed in the Catholic faith, and I consider myself non-denominational. I really do. I just look at the word, and what the word says, I go by it. Now, I notice that Catholics, when it comes to confessions, they I'm just saying, they talk to someone else. They confess to someone. What's the difference between confessing to someone than to just confessing to God, to these sins?
Well, there's really not much of a difference.
Okay.
The only difference is there's a minister. And for, those of us that really like to hear the words like you are forgiven.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you this in my authority. As a minister of Christ, Jesus gave the disciples the power to forgive sin.
Yeah.
And I cannot forgive your sin.
Yeah.
I can't, because I don't know your heart. I don't know what happened. I can't forgive you on behalf of God, but I can tell you to go to God, right?
Yeah.
So it's somebody who has been given that authority to forgive you on behalf of God.
Okay.
So that's the difference. Okay. It's not a different God. It's not a different Jesus. It's just a minister.
Okay. So it makes sense then, because you're hearing that confirmation from that man, because a lot of times you don't hear God. I don't think you ever hear God audibly. You hear God in your heart and your feelings and all those things. But I guess you might hear God in your ear. But so you hear this person, this man, woman, tell you what you already know, and it affirms it to you.
Well, and there are some times though that not that you're not forgiven, but you do need to have a conversation. You may not realize it. Yeah. I confess being hateful to my husband, and the priest was like, "What happened? Why would you do that?" Well, okay, if you're really sorry, you will, say a prayer here now, and then you will go and write him a kind letter.
Okay. Okay.
And it's somebody helping you not only to understand your forgiveness, the forgiveness that is bestowed on you, but it's also to help you understand the root of it, to understand how to make it right. One time I confessed stealing a croissant at work.
Okay.
And the priest was like, okay, so next time you're, at work, put the $4 back. And it's
yeah.
Oh.
But it was a good croissant.
But it was good. And can I just be here now? So we do need, we really do need that minister. I'm convinced we need that minister, that clear-eyed, person to say like, here's how you should navigate
Yeah.
this, you know?
Yeah. Hey, but that goes to another conversation, another subject. You have to trust that person, right?
Mm,
And I don't know, we're all sinners. So my only, I would say, challenge is to look at someone like that and like, you're just as sinful as I am. Maybe not, but
yes.
but they are sinners too. I just, in my mind, can't reconcile that going to another man and asking. I know you're not asking him for forgiveness. I know
Yeah.
that 100%.
Yeah.
But to talk to that person, because a lot of times I sit at the edge of my bed when I feel I need to talk to God. I talk to God,
Good.
and I feel him. I do feel him.
Good.
He'll lead me to certain verses in the Bible, and one thing I was stressing about something, and I wasn't getting an answer. I wasn't getting any answers, and then someone has sent me this thing on different scriptures about something. I can't remember. It was just one of those things that you probably get. I appreciate it, but it wasn't things I'll put in my regular rotation. I was like, I sat it down, and I went back to my Bible doing my thing, and that scripture, Proverbs 3:5-6, was right there in my face. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and
Mhm.
and believe in Him, and He'll give you. And I just said, okay, so that lesson He gave me. I didn't go to another man for that,
Yeah.
but more I think I'm sitting here thinking about it now. Another man did give me that piece of paper.
Yeah, we work in community. We're told to told to confess to one another, and
Yeah,
that's what we should do.
yeah. You know what? See, I need to study my word a lot more. I don't remember that verse. Confess to one another. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember what verse it is? I'm not trying to question you. I just y'all
No,
want to write down.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. A lot of times when I don't know the verse, I'll put it in. I'll go to Google and put it in, and it'll pop up to me what chapter and verse and
Yeah, or
everything. Yeah.
yeah.
But I tell you what, just talking to you, and which is really cool. I think what's hurting your following is you're so young. You have all this wealth
I
of
know.
knowledge, and people won't take you serious. And I don't know. And I may see you as, oh, she's just a young girl, but you have so much knowledge that you
Mm.
can give all ages. That's pretty cool.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. Well, so do you. I
Well,
mean,
I'm just
you
old
are
fart.
absolutely a wealth of knowledge, and I hate the thought of somebody writing you off
Yeah.
for whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm an old
It
guy.
happens to all of us. It really does.
It does. It does. And like I said, you're so young. This is what you need to do. Get some wrinkles. Put some gray in your hair.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But that's pretty cool. Now, let me jump back because I'm telling you, I bounce around, as you can tell. I'm all over the
Love
place,
it.
and I
Love it.
try to come back to what we try to talk about. Now, how can parents, what do you suggest a parent, how do they handle their child that may be questioning sexuality now that the schools are trying to take over? Don't get me started down that road. But
Yeah.
how do you suggest a parent say, hey, I want to talk to my child this way? How do I talk to them and let them know that they're not
Yeah.
whatever? They're not
Yeah.
a guy trapped in a woman's body and all these other things.
Mm. Again, like, yeah. First of all, I'm not a parent. I
Yep,
hope to
that's
be,
okay. That's
but
okay.
I'm not a parent. I don't
Yeah.
even have any children in my world. So,
Okay.
not an aunt. No,
Oh man.
nothing.
Okay.
No. But I would just encourage anybody that's trying to lead anyone,
Yeah.
you know, towards truth to really affirm that person's identity in God. Like, this is how God made you
Yeah.
with a vagina.
Yeah.
And that is so good
Yeah.
because here's the I have 100 reasons why the vagina is good. And I am ready to talk about it.
I bet
Um
your husband has 101 reason.
and yeah, and just this is how God made you, and it's so good. And no amount of talking to them though is going to allow them to understand that and to
Yeah.
really internalize it. But you can certainly try. You can certainly tell them why their body is good, why their reproduction is good,
Yeah.
why the family is good, why God is good, and how He doesn't make mistakes. And He
Right.
didn't make a mistake with you. And the way He made you is not wrong.
Yeah.
It's something. I don't know if it's a friend. I don't know if it's something you saw online or just Satan himself
Yeah.
that's telling you you're wrong. And I'm sure there's therapy that has to go involved with it. I'm not saying like just tell someone that they're good
Yeah.
and like brush it off.
Right. Where's my check?
But like figure out where the root of that is. Is it
Yeah.
because you've been, rejected by boys, and so you feel like you might. And I will tell you, you're going to find this really interesting. You probably already know this. A lot of the reason that women convert to being men
Mm-hmm.
is because men have hurt them and they feel like, as a woman, I'm so vulnerable.
Yeah.
I'm so weak.
Yeah.
I'm so powerless. Womanhood is hard and painful, I'm gonna escape that pain.
Yeah.
Or men convert to being a woman because they see the way that men act on social media. They see the horrible things and dare I say the toxic
Oh
masculinity.
no.
But I'm using that because I
Yeah,
don't
I
know
get
how
it.
like just this like aggressive like
Yeah.
male energy,
Yeah.
ego. And they say that's not me, so I must be a woman.
Got it. Got it.
And so
Yeah.
why? Why do you feel like this isn't you?
Yeah.
Because you can like pink and be a boy.
Yeah.
You can
You
like
can.
you can like climbing trees and be a girl.
Yeah.
What is it that's telling you? Like, what is it? You
Yeah.
know?
And I think a lot of it is society's telling that. We skipped something there. And you said like girls can be, climb trees. And when I was growing up, they were just called tomboys. You just hung
Yeah,
out. They were just tough. They punch you in the face just like you would punch somebody else in the face.
totally.
But they still like boys, you know.
Yeah.
And I just think right now today we have so many. What is it called now? The affirming care. There's no
Mhm.
more. I'm going to help you. I'm just going to affirm what you believe about
I
yourself
know.
now, and that's the
I know.
saddest thing.
And the thing is, like with any other, like if I'm having any other like thought, like if I were to tell myself I'm fundamentally bad
Yeah.
because I have brown hair,
Yeah.
I'm fundamentally bad because I don't know, I had acne.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, you know what, you're right. You are right. You're fundamentally bad because you have
Yeah.
acne.
Yeah.
And we're going to, change the world and put you on all these drugs because you have
Yeah.
acne. Or
Exactly.
you are fundamentally bad because you have brown hair and you should do everything you can to
Mhm.
change your roots
Yep.
and to change your ingrown and the way that your scalp navigates.
Exactly.
No, we wouldn't say that. We'd say
No.
your brown hair's gorgeous. Your
Exactly.
acne's gonna go away.
Yep.
Welcome to reality.
Exactly.
And it's obviously it's much deeper than those
Yeah.
things, but
It's not
as
as much
loving
deeper on that
people,
level. It's not as deeper than that. It really is on that level. What you're saying, it's not as deeper than that. It really isn't.
and as loving people, why would we tell them you're right? You're right. The
Yeah.
way that you are is wrong. You're right.
Yeah.
So let's change the way you
Yeah.
are.
But it's because people don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. People want to be like
Yeah.
themselves. So I have to affirm what you're saying so you can like me and you can understand. We're all screwed up. There's so much confusion out there. And I think when I look at the youth now that, they're joining this different club, because I was growing up, I had the emos, there was the
Oh my
athletes,
gosh.
we had them all, and I was friends with all of them, but everybody
Yeah.
thought a little different. But no one said, and homosexuality was a small portion of people. We all had that one friend who was gay. We called him
Yeah.
sissy, and but we didn't tease them, but they were still hung out with us. We didn't look
Yeah.
at it was so bad. But now it's just gone so far. I just think, like you were saying, when so many people affirming all these things, that our children are just really screwed up. They don't know where to go. So
I know.
even therapists are talking about, affirming all this stuff. And I'm thinking, how? We need you to help these guys, But
Yeah.
see,
And that's where the church comes in.
that's where the church comes in. I'm telling you, I'm going on a whole nother tangent now. We're going to bounce back over here.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I got time.
You got time. But the church, once again, I don't think we talk about these things in the church anymore. And I think, we should be able to, this is my opinion, church should have the answer for everything.
Yeah.
Because the word has the answer for everything. And the churches
Yeah.
should talk about it. But you don't hear churches talking about this stuff anymore at all. At all.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
When you started your class about getting married, and I think you guys had a class, right? You and your husband had to go
we
through a
did.
course. And they talked about everything, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Why we can't talk about that stuff at the pulpit? I don't know.
Totally. I know.
know?
I wonder that too. And I wonder, is it because there are kids here? I mean, but yeah, why can't we talk
Yeah.
about,
They could easily
Yeah,
say,
I mean-
hey, kids got to go out don't bring your kids, put them in the kids' play area for today. We're going to talk about the goody-goody now.
right, right. Yeah. Yeah. I do think it's good that like most churches, you have some kind of like, you talk to your pastor about
Yeah.
it. You talk to a priest, what's going on? What are the things you're working on? What are the things, whatever. That's so good. And
Yeah.
we need more of that. And it can't be a one size fits all. That's one beef I have with my marriage counseling.
Yeah.
It was like a one size fits all. And I was like, okay, but we actually like need help with on this area,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, we don't really have time for that,
Wait a minute, I need that.
I'm like, okay, well, I've heard the Adam and Eve story 89 million times.
Right.
I don't need it. Like, I'm sure I could always hear it again, but like, can you help us with this thing? Like, why we're here?
Yeah, yeah, and maybe
Yeah.
they don't even know how to address that. That's the issue. They
Yeah.
may not know how to address that.
Right.
Now, you consider yourself a traditional wife, a traditional gal? Let's go with that.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I have a Christian Instagram that talks about sexuality. I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know. I mean, I like, yeah, in my home, I love doing the housework. I love going to church. I love grocery shopping. Love
Do
it.
you really?
Love it. It is my therapy.
Oh
Yeah, I
wow.
love doing the housework. I love, wearing a dress to church with my husband,
Yeah.
but I don't put my identity in that.
Okay. Now, do you guys have traditional roles at your household now? I know you said you love doing those things, but do you look at each other traditionally? Like he's the man, help me with this jar. You know.
Oh, for sure.
You
Oh,
know?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he holds my door.
Okay.
He prays before our meals for us. Like it's been, we were both in Seattle when we met. So it's
Oh
been
wow.
a learning curve for both of us, for me to be like, you're the man,
Yeah.
and for him to be like, you're the woman, and like, don't, like one thing I've noticed that I used to do a lot was like interrupt him.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's so emasculating for a man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to understand he's a man and that's good. And this harms that.
Yeah. It does.
That shuts it out.
Yeah.
That shuts him down, etc. Submitting has been something I've also really struggled with,
Yeah.
but grown a lot in,
Okay.
being like, you really think that's the best course of action? You really think we shouldn't? You really think that? Are
Yeah.
you really gonna remember to dot dot
Uh
dot?
huh.
And
Uh huh.
submitting, being like, yep, you got it. I know. I trust you. I
Yeah.
trust this.
Yes.
And it's also just like I'm a controlling person.
Yeah.
But that word submit has been something I've really grown in.
Yeah.
And lead has been something my husband has really grown in.
Okay. Okay. But you're right. Submission, that word submission, I know a lot of women that drives them crazy. And
Yeah.
I understand why. We take it out of
Yeah.
context. They think submission, kiss your husband's feet today,
Right.
doing all that. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying that's bad. No, I'm just joking. But doing all that.
Not always.
But and I think you hit it on the head. When you have a guy who's trying to lead and you're
Yeah.
back there just always
I
knocking him in
know.
the head a little bit. Men doesn't. It hurts a man's ego because our whole
I
thing
know.
as men is maybe cavemen and all this. We want to provide and protect our little woman, as we call it.
Yeah.
We want to. If you take that from us, we have nothing else.
I know.
And we look at you and think, man, I don't think I want this. She doesn't love me anymore if she don't let me do these things for her. You know, I have a good friend of mine. I call her my friend. We're good friends, and she's really good at that. She doesn't nag. She doesn't. She
Yes.
does her thing, and we have conversation. I ask her opinion on things, and then we just do our thing. And she's like, "Yeah, I knew you'd figure that out."
Oh,
And I was
wow.
like, "Man, yeah."
Wow.
And it took a lot for her to be that way. She's not 23 anymore,
Right.
so she's learned, and I've learned how to be a
Right.
better leader in my life. So, but I think it's so cool that you're at your age, and I'm not going to harp on your age, but I think it's fascinating, because I've talked to a lot of 23-year-olds out there, and whew, they don't know a whole
Yeah.
lot. But you have your head on straight, and I think what can you attest that to being a Christian or just life?
Yes, Christianity. And
Okay.
I think not just the church as a place, but
Yeah.
like the church in my heart. Like the church
Oh,
that like
okay.
tells me right from wrong. The church that says, you're feeling that pit in your stomach is there for a reason.
Yeah.
Or that tells me like the peace you're feeling, even on Good Friday, even when you're at a screaming match with family, that peace you're feeling is there for a reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the Holy Spirit.
Yeah. That's cool. And I always believe that God put right and wrong in our hearts. So those little nudges, we
Exactly.
know. We
Like
know.
God's law is written on your heart. If
Yeah.
it was written on all of our hearts, there would be probably there wouldn't be this kind of
Yeah.
discourse.
If we listen to it.
If we,
Yeah.
yes,
If we
yes,
listen to it.
exactly. You're so right.
Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying.
Oh no, you're good. But God, God knows us. We know what's right and wrong. And I think this is what brings us to that shame that we,
Mhm.
like we're talking about shame in our sexuality. We know it's not right. I believe that. We know it's not right. So I'm just going to stay this far from God and try to convince myself that I'm right.
Yeah.
when we know we're not right. And I think a lot of times that us as Christians or us as people, we try, if we want to be Christian, we want to be those Christians or good Christians, we try to take, we try to make God fit into our lives instead of us fitting into God's life or what God has
Exactly.
for us, and then we just go off the rails every time, every
No,
time.
you're so right. You're so right. You have a lot of wisdom as well.
Oh, thank you. I'm gonna write that down. I'm gonna quote you on that.
Please do. Please do. I will defend it.
There you go. I love it. I love it. Now, what is one of the biggest challenges you have um, with being the type? I think you answered before, but being as open as you are, as a person who's willing to, like we're talking about butthole. You talk about
Oh gosh.
everything. You're so open with that.
Well, that may be a generational difference. A
It
lot of
might
a
be.
lot of my generation talks about
Oh
buttholes.
my
So
gosh. Oh my gosh. And I can't argue with you because we hear the word butthole. We're like, what did they just say? Get off my lawn. And-
right, right.
so, what is your biggest
Um,
challenge with that?
I think boundaries
Mm,
because I really want to be open. I really want to be available
yeah.
to everyone. I want to respond to every comment,
Yeah.
but I think setting boundaries, I think making it clear I'm married, even though I feel like I made it clear in what I do. I
Yeah.
feel like um yeah, not giving all my time and energy, making sure that like I'm praying before I open the Instagram,
Mm,
making sure that I have time with my husband,
yeah.
after prayer, in the morning before I open Instagram, remembering that this isn't for an algorithm, this isn't for followings, this is like I'm here for God
Wow.
and whatever he wants to do with it, he can do with it. And I can sleep well knowing that I said yes in the best way I knew
Wow.
how.
I literally just got goosebumps. Sitting there. Listen to that.
Oh my
Goosebumps.
gosh, really?
Wow.
I got goosebumps when you were talking about the gym story, not gonna lie.
we just gave you guys your goosebumps. That's pretty
We just
cool,
have
though.
goosebumps this whole time.
Right? That is so powerful that you just said yes. You just said yes. Wow. You know what? You're amazing. All right, girl.
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
that's
Oh my gosh, thank you.
you are
Thank
awesome,
you.
girl. But before we get you out of here, I know I'm telling you, I appreciate you taking the time the day before Easter. Easter Sunday. You took some time to talk to us today. Now, before we get you out of here, tell everyone all your social media, how they can reach you, all that stuff, because I want people to reach out to you everywhere.
Oh gosh. Um, well, thanks. Thanks. I hope they reach out to me too.
They will. They will.
Oh gosh. Oh god. And they do. And they do. I'm telling you, they will and they do.
That's awesome.
Um, okay. So you can find me at Neutrality. That's with a K. It's
Okay.
because I couldn't get Neutrality
Yeah.
normally. It was already taken. Thanks. I don't know
Yeah.
who's running that account, but I hope you're doing well. Um, it's Neutrality with a silent K.
Okay.
And it's Neutrality on Instagram and on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. I also have neutrality.com where you can
Wow.
get my liturgical planner for
I
the
wanted to talk
Catholics
about
out
that.
there.
Yeah.
For the Catholics out there or Christians or, people that are just interested.
Yeah.
It has the Sunday readings this was part 2, so it's going to be July of this year through December of this year. It
Okay.
has reflections, my own reflections on like the gospel readings. We've got some second readings, which are usually like, letter to the Corinthians, like
Oh,
some stuff from
wow.
Paul. We've also got like Old Testament readings that are going to be like the first readings. I'm probably not explaining this well. It's a lot. It's Psalms, but it also includes a lot of my own like reflections on
Yeah.
it, and so that gets intimate and personal, and it's really good. It's really fun. I use it in church when I go every weekend, so I hope you guys will, check it out.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. And I
Oh,
saw that. I wanted to talk about that journal. And I just, we have to
yeah.
get you on for part 2 and have you just do a whole thing on it. That'd be
Oh,
awesome.
thanks. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's given me a really good outlet to share my thoughts, and especially to like my real like my Bible beater friends, that are like, well, he also said it here. Well, he also said this there. Well, what does that mean? Because not all of my followers are like that. So
Oh
that's been really
man.
good for me. And it's been a lot of just like a lot more lighthearted
Yeah.
because I feel like the Instagram is a little bit intense, a little
Hmm.
bit,
Yeah.
moody.
Yeah.
But this is really meant for like lighthearted. It's like blue, like light blue, white, pink. So I'm like, I'm not like depressed, even though I might look it on my Instagram.
Hey, look, and you did not look depressed on your Instagram. That's for
Okay,
sure.
good.
Oh my gosh. Freeman, you are amazing. Thank you
Oh,
so
you're
much.
amazing. Thank you for everything you're doing to empower men to like understand their masculinity, understand understand, God, understand their faith,
Yeah.
and not reject it, not buy the lie that it is, wrong or bad.
Yeah.
It's not toxic. It is so good that
Yes,
you
man.
have
Amen.
masculinity and that you're a man and that you
Thank
have
you
a
so much.
penis.
You're awesome.
I can't believe I just
I
said
love
that.
that. But your generation says butthole, so penis can
We
be fine
do.
too. So,
Yeah, we
but Freeman, we
do.
have got to get you on for part two because I want to hear more about your story.
Oh,
You are an amazing lady and
so are
appreciate you
you.
more.
Well,
So
you're an amazing
I
person.
think I'm a
Yes,
person or a
man.
guy. No, I'm still a guy.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
But man, you keep it up. Hey guys, that's been Freeman Voyles. Find her everywhere. Look her up.
Oh,
She does the fitness for the brain and the heart.
oh my gosh. Wow, that means a lot. That really means a lot.
Oh
Thank you so
man.
much for this. It's been so good getting to know you.
You too, girl. So you take care. We'll talk to you soon. And you take care of yourself.
All right,
All right.
bye.
Bye bye now.
Oh, man.